wake up, God damn it. Welcome to MarketCast with Unk and Market Monk. Morning, P. How was your week?
Really good. Just had a couple big winners. Some of them were off a thesis that was developing for 2 or 3 weeks, and then some were just some quick opportunities. Um, Earnings, huge movers there. We caught some of that, so expect that to continue.
Nice, nice. Yeah, good week for, um, I guess the collab process in general. Um, and I guess I get lucky occasionally with the ones that I prefer lining up. But hymns, Datadog, Roblox, all great for me last week, and then
Yeah,
that EVGO was decent to start the week. So I had a good start to the week. Um, had some stuff towards the end of the week, show with the wife, and then a game again on Friday. So I was planning on kind of keeping it light towards Thursday, Friday. Um, so not a bad week with that plan in mind to stay a little bit light. Um, and I think I caught the better part of the week, to be honest with you. So yeah. I mean, good stuff. You got to kind of do your homework right now. I wouldn't say we're to where you really have to like pick through the weeds to find the good one, but it's still like a sideways thing. So finding the ones that have the perfect blend of the setup, and I'm a big news guy, you know that. So that's important right now. And then obviously with this ER, you figure out what the market likes, right? You kind of figure out along the way what the market's looking for in these reports. And hopefully that doesn't take the full ER cycle for you to do. So,
yeah.
been pretty good there um, over here. But yeah, still, I think I say it every other week, and I think it's on the calendar for this week. Just try not to mess this year up. It's been a good one. Um, and yeah, just like trading, so continuing to do the process and the work. But man, um, good week for what we do last week, and this week I don't know if it's I was a little biased, but I kind of wanted to type it, but I was waiting for this. Um, I, I think we could have made the list without our hour and a half of work. To be honest with you, not that we won't
Yeah.
do our hour and a half of work, but I think
Right, right.
I think me and you could shoot each other 10 tickers right now, and eight of them would line up. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking where we are right now.
Yeah, me too. And I think the the divergence within sectors is going to be something that that people are going to watch, are going to want to watch, because there was a time when everything was running up that it just, SaaS, anything, all going, didn't really matter their numbers, whatever. They have bad earnings, they come right back with everything else. It's not quite like that now. You have some solid reports getting rewarded significantly, like Datadog did. The other side, you have Trade Desk, and Trade Desk was in my leftover three. But the last sentence I said there, this outpaces QQQ both directions regularly, and it did that to the downside. So even on a beat, weak guidance, it got hammered. So you got to really do your homework within these sectors on um, who has cash, who has, kind of the better story, the better narrative. Semiconductors, there's a lot of big winners, but there's some laggers and some losers, and you can't just grab onto one of the losing stocks and think, oh, okay, it's going to catch up. So I do think that doing your homework right now is really really crucial, and that's what, part of the process that I um, try to show people, and it goes in everything from even gold and silvers like that. So um, we're gonna continue to be a market where I think people are kind of under the microscope, more so than just running on hype. Even when the market's euphoric, there's still that extra scrutiny there.
No, 100%. And I think I, I started that. Well, it was the you write down your thesis. Your September to January thesis. You write that down in big bold letters. But there's stuff that has to go underneath that. That kind of confirms that for you. And part of that cycle was sectors just getting hammered. and then the good ones kind of making their way back out of it. The companies that are going to succeed, and just
Yeah.
getting another one of those cycles. It's pretty adamant that you weren't going to see it in the bigger names, and so far, so far been true to that. So we are just kind of see it in the second tier companies, but yeah, yeah, like you're saying, like I think that's where a good way to better way to say this. I think that's where we were kind of like not ahead, but we totally let go of a sector like solar, and some of the EVs are getting that way too.
Yeah.
Chargers, just that whole kind of area, we let that go because it just isn't lining up with the money side. Like they might run out of runways, or they're gonna have to finance debt at 7% or whatever the case may be before when people would just throw money at them. So it's a different environment. But we've identified that early, and you're gonna see that in everything from we'll take this week from candy to real estate, right? You're going to see it all the way
Yeah.
across the
Yeah.
board. I mean, it's just kind of what it is.
Well, and so solar too. We're at a point where I get people asking me about going long on solar because they're so low,
Yeah, no.
and they'll see it up 3% in a day. And this is just where it's so crucial. Like you have to zoom out because it can go up 3%, 1%, 2%, then it's down 8% the next day. That's what Solar Edge is doing. And then every time they open their mouth after hours, they drop another 10 or 15%. And I don't it's not like that's over to me. And like Canadian Solar has earnings this week. I expect that to be really bad. And if it's not, it's going to pop and fade right back down. There has to be a fundamental change in that story, and um, you have to start having rate cuts first of all for them. And I think EV chargers might kind of be the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I mean that's I don't like to type, but the stuff that goes through my head is exactly that on a lot of things. Like it's a big process, but everyone, I mean, a lot of people just get stuck in to a little thing. But I mean, you got to think about market cap. I mean, I have the mind of a drug dealer from high school and an ad rep and a business ad rep newspaper person, right? Like that's my
Yeah.
mind. That's my width, right? Like so I
Right.
really think about market share, and I've seen a lot of businesses, like a lot of mom and pop businesses, and the ones your work ethic didn't make you successful a lot of times, right? It was
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
market share and your margin. I mean that's basically what did it for you. And I mean you could have the busiest store and be broke, and you could have like the store that didn't look like it was making a dollar and it was making money hand over fist. But just to have that perception, you have to apply that to these companies. And I know that sounds like what the fuck is Unc talking about here, but here I'll break it down with solar because I've said this before and I'll continue to say this. When that shit came out, it was the best new drug or best new product on the market. People ate it
Yeah.
up. Government paid for it. People ate it up. And that market share is just the hype market share is gone. So now you just have like the regular trickle of business, and the government's backing out with the subsidies, both on the state
Yeah.
and the federal level. So like, there's just kind of like, where's your market share at? Like,
Well,
it's
yeah.
not going to get to 100% capacity. Let's just be
Yeah.
real. So, um,
Well, here's a concrete example of what you're talking about. So around the corner from my house, little convenience store. They don't sell gas. Privately owned. This guy, like, he owns the building. He lives upstairs. He rents another retail spot to somebody else. Hardly anyone ever there. But his business does really well.
hell yeah.
If you go get a franchise at OnQ or whatever, like 7-Eleven, and you're doing that, you might be packed all constantly, but you need to be packed constantly, or things fall off for you really fast. Because there's cost to the franchising, and you just have so much overhead and all these employees, and like there's just so much more that you have to put into it. So a little convenience store, not even on a busy street, whatever, can actually do better than someone who's seemingly has everything really going for them. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that whole concept.
Yeah, no, and from a small, I mean, I can speak as a small business owner too. I mean, there's another one. variable in there for small business, which isn't in there for big business, which is your time in general.
Yeah.
And a lot of small business owners definitely equate that into the profit. It's on their bottom line, right? It's one of their top and bottom lines,
Yeah.
where you're not going to get that with a regular business. But yeah, it's exactly the same thing. Like you don't need, you just need the numbers to work for you, basically. And
Yeah.
again, relating that back to what we're saying, you have to find that. And some of these industries or sectors, as we call them, um, they don't have the market share right now. Like again, if we're people aren't spending money on solar if they can't buy chicken, just it
Right.
is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Or if you
Yeah.
have, I mean, it's a reality I didn't have because I grew up pretty dang poor. But if you got 10 racks of liability because your car payment and your house and shit like that, right? I mean, if that's is what it is, if you're 8 to 10 racks and you got to cover
Hmm.
that every month, and something
Yeah.
happened with your job, yeah, you're not buying fucking solar panels. And to be honest, that probably was their customers. The same with EV. That probably
Yep.
the $95,000 Rivian that I see listed on Marketplace. Ain't no one buying that, because that guy is probably
Yeah. Well,
has
the
so
yeah
much
the
liability.
part of the solar appeal was the kind of environmentalist
Oh yeah, yeah,
virtue signal, big virtue signaling thing that people with money like to do. That's same with EV. It's something to tell their friends about and feel good about and everything. But yeah, I mean, like there's people kind of tightening their belt. It's harder to break into new markets, and then we talked in our midweek session that we had about perception of government and that having Republicans in there is not perceived as good for solar, whether that pans out or not. I mean, that's just part of the deal. So yeah, they're going to keep getting hammered, and it doesn't matter if they beat their numbers by 50 cents or whatever. It's it's the guidance, it's the perception of the sector. Um, it's gonna continue to be rough, and I was on that months and months and months ago, as were you, as were on everybody wanting to buy the dip on it, and it went beyond what we thought, and so like I like it even less now that our numbers didn't hold up, the in phase 110 and all that. That's pretty ugly at this point.
Is it the ETF tan? Yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Tan. Yep.
yeah, man. RTL is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a line on tan. This was back when solar
I don't. I'm
was
lazy.
good.
I make the computer do it for me.
Yeah. So mine was yeah, it was 57.74. That was like I said that was like the line in the sand.
Oh
The
yeah, you're
breakdown
right.
below that, and we're done.
You're on this guy right here. Yep, 56,
Yep.
66. Ooh,
Oh, yeah, pretty
Goose would
close.
like that. 56,
Yeah.
66.
Yeah. Right.
Love it. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I try to think of positivities too, right? I'm a bull, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
and like I'm not a negative guy. I do try to, like we talked about before, not or disprove myself, and sometimes it's real easy. But the only thing I could think be good for these guys, but it would be bad for a sector that I like, is if rates stay real high, people can't sell their houses, and rich people got to do something to tell the neighbors, right? Oh, we're
Yeah.
we're painting the foyer. They got to do
Yeah.
it. They got to do it. So
Right.
and
Right.
then the government maybe come in and say we're going to do tax credits, and it just makes sense for them. But my really really good friend, he's solar panels Tesla guy, right? Like got him back in the day when the credits were real good, and Model 3 first came out type guy. Um,
Yeah.
and like you're just like 120. Well, back then you were like 100 in. Now you're probably like 150 in, and you're like cutting out your power bill and not paying for gas if you do it right. But he gets to charge at work, so you do got to kind of have like the environment to do that. But
Yeah.
if he wasn't, he would probably be like breaking even, to be honest with you. So you're gonna pay 150K to kind of break even, and I don't mean break even by getting your 150K back. I mean like net neutral on your bill as it was before.
Right.
so,
Right. Yeah.
so I mean, you don't have to deal with the fluctuation in gas prices, I guess, but I mean, it's just not there yet. I've seen it. Like I have a pretty good sample window. I don't when the Model 3 come out, like 16, 17, 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got
Mhm.
like an 8 year window I've watched, and yeah, it's just not there. And I think that's the best example. And like
It
so
is. Yeah. Absolutely.
a 20-minute work to commute that has chargers, solar panels on your house, and a Model 3. I mean,
Right.
that's a pretty good example. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to get much better than that.
Right. Right.
Um, so earning season, to skip a little bit, we're kind of through there.
Yep.
I'm not over it, but I'm on the other side of it. I think I said it in Read the Room that way. I'm on the other side of it now. I think you got to read reports just because there's nothing really sexy left. And I mean, I know you know. I don't know if everyone else knows, but we know what matters out there. You have to have money now, and you can't guide lower. You just can't. Nothing can be bad on the forward looking, um, or you're probably gonna have a negative reaction.
Yes. And so for me, there's a
Oh,
few
okay.
gems here and there.
Can I add one more thing to that? Sorry.
Yeah.
And that your most things are gonna probably dip even if they're gonna come out of that whole well. I mean, most things are just gonna have a news sell the news feel to them. Like your Crocs was a good example. That's one that I played, and then your TD, your trade desk this week I thought was a great example. Like crap, I should have played the rebound on that. Because
Yeah, it
they're
did.
so negative. Everything is so negative right now.
So yeah, so Trade Desk, it dropped 30 as much as 30% or like 32% after hours. Opened at around down 20%, and then kind of recovered another four, and then dipped again. So yeah, my lotto put, like when you do the calculator, it was, I mean, if it was at its low, would have been, I don't know, like 3 grand or something. It ended up like I think 1,100. But from
Oh,
$70, like
oh, are
yeah,
you?
I know, right? But yeah, that the share thing, like for the upside, for Twillo, I did shares because I'm just so used to what it does. So Twillo popped 10%, gave it back, and not, never really retested that upper level. And I think it will. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But for like the earnings trade, you got to have something either you don't care about because it's so small, or that you can get out of, which is the shares. Datadog was a little different, just because it fit a lot, like kind of the profile I look for, where the chart is just right and the flow is not astronomically out of money, but plausibly out of the money. Where it was at 90C and 92C, I'm like, well, we could open at that, and then we exceeded that. So there are going to be some opportunities like that. But when I look at this week's earnings, I look at Home Depot and Target and Walmart, and I want to get into a couple of those in the other session. Um, it's not that likely that you're going to get a sustained move that holds itself after hours. That you find that equilibrium, and I think with most of these, that the trend is going to be up, and it'll absorb whatever negativity they have. Target's a little different. It's that chart's got some problems, but I think the others, Walmart's on that, just going to grind up near all time highs, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon.
Oh, that's MT. Yeah. I wanted to touch on Datadog, and you got me looking at Walmart now.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Datadog for me, it's just and how do I want to say that? For Datadog for me, I just looked at that a little different. It's just how you broke it down. I do like, but I totally looked at that as like just getting back to our level, right, from where I was at, and trying to get my sizing right where I thought we could go if it was bad, um,
Yeah.
and then putting myself in where I could basically make a decision to buy if I like the news. again. So that was kind of how I looked at that, just from the completely other side. Um, and I think we both were pretty adamant about it not going, like, I think we said 65, but further chart review for me was like 68, 69. Really didn't see 70 psych being played with even in the worst conditions.
Yeah.
But I got way more than that than way more than I thought I would about that. I mean, I just wanted to make it back to the channel, so that was just a thank you and get out for me. But I really looked at that trade from the other side, which I think you have to do on most earning plays. That's why I said that. I think that's the best. I mean, if you're just looking at upside, I'm not UP. Um,
Yeah.
in general, if you're just looking at upside, I think you you could be set up for some big failures, in my opinion. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And
I mean,
I
I guess for you that would make the difference between 2 or 10 contracts, right? Like,
yes, exactly. So Datadog, I actually, so my plan was, I was like, okay, 90C, I'm just, I'm going to buy a couple of those. But then, as Monday, kind of materialized, and I saw, kind of flow coming in. I saw 96 and 100 getting active. And I was like, okay, just like, $5-15. Let's buy 5 of these.
there you go.
And then I'm gonna trade it tomorrow if I'm completely wrong and it just tanks. I know it's gonna probably come back 5 or 8%. I'll just trade it tomorrow and make that money back. That's you have if you have the confidence to do that. It's not really just like, it's not hopium at that point. You've done this enough. You can do that, and you're also not risking a huge amount of money. But then it's this big home run, and you just cash out, and you're kind of done for the day. I think the mistake people make, and they did this with Netflix, Facebook, whatever, is to think that that exact thing is repeatable. If we go into next Datadog earnings and it's $116, um, I don't think you then at that point go, okay, it's going to go to 140 now. You can't just automatically say that, and I also wouldn't say it's going to go back to 80. It might be more flat that time. It's a new setup, new idea. So going back to the well on a winner is something that you have to. It takes time, experience, and modest expectations. I think that would be my biggest lesson there.
I got a quick options question for you here. So, like,
Yeah.
it's a chaser question. That's why I'm asking.
Hmm.
So if you woke up here Tuesday and you're like, oh shit, those fuckers were right. That dog is out of control. Um, and this first, 10, 20 minutes here, it was at 97, 98, and you bought a
Yeah.
hundred. You bought 100. I don't know when. I mean, that might be, if that's part of the problem. Let me know. Um, and you bought 100C and held it most of these this week. How would you be doing?
Um, if it was a weekly, or if it was
I,
like
I
you bought a little time on it.
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, so if it were a weekly, you probably would have, and you held it overnight. You were up, but you probably would have panic sold, because those dipped quite a bit when it went under 100. And then if you just let it go, then yeah, I mean, you went over 1,000% on that by like 30 minutes and after open. So that's how you did there. Now, if you held those all week, which you probably would not have done with the weeklies, I don't think, but let's just say that you did that with something like 1117 100C. We'll look at that one real quick. Okay, so yeah, so those are $450. They held their value pretty well all week, never dipped under. They got to about like 230, and you bought those for $38 before earnings. They topped out at 547. They're currently 460.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Hey, I'm just trying to figure that part out because that happens a lot. It seems that people just get caught up in the chase and the hold.
Yeah, I think so. Right, and that was one too where I think the assumption of a lot of people was that a stock like Datadog wasn't going to hold its move after that first ER, that move up, in the pre-market. So they try to jump in and short it. I think for those aftermarket moves, you got to let the chart sort of decide for itself, and then you follow it. You might not get the best entry on options. You might pay an extra $50, but getting a little bit of confirmation and not just jumping into something because of your perception. Oh, this is a shit co. It's going to fall back down. Things aren't working like that right now, so you want to be careful with that
But
that bias.
when that $38 option hops up to 500 or whatever,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Is that playable from like 350 to 500? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah. So actually, if you call up the option chart on 1117 100C, it did this like $220 to over $400 thing several
What was
times
the strike again?
last
Sorry.
week.
Sorry.
It's a 1117 100C.
11, 17. Gotcha. 100. Yeah, it was plus $2 on Friday.
Yeah.
Send that to my Red Seas chart. And let me switch my time
But
frame here.
and this honestly, this is how I trade these on a big earnings win.
So here's your
Um,
38, well, $42
yeah.
to be realistic.
Mhm.
So we opened at, yeah, 545. This is okay. So this was kind of my question here. So this is the open, right? Like it
Yeah.
just slams through. If you even bought the first pullback here at 415 and held all week, God,
Hmm.
you'd be flat now. Okay, that was kind of
Yeah.
what I was getting. Because this seems what happens is a lot of people try to buy in here.
Well, that's the worst time. The worst time to buy is that the first couple hours because it's just so that contract is so popular and so juiced that you want even you want it to things to calm down in the options market. And even if the stock all it takes is the stock consolidating. It doesn't even have to drop
Yeah.
really. But yeah, you want things to start to calm down. Or if you have an idea that we're going to get another leg up, that next week's contract is not enough time. You want to probably be in January at that point. What I did with Datadog is I cleared the weeklies and I waited a bit, and then I actually went with 110C in March with part of that profit, and then I'm just gonna wait this out, and I think it holds up here, and we'll move that direction. That was the same thing I did with MDB on that big win. That one was like $115 to $3,800 is what it opened at. I want to take most of that off the table, but I'll go back in with my rule on a big win like that is I'll take one third of it and I'll get the best spot I can for for more of a move here, and that's how I stay in stuff.
Nice, nice. No, I like that a lot. To pivot a little bit on the other side is a question I had wrote down that I wanted to ask you because I think it's a good topic, and uh, it was a Twitter rant. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you're still on the guy. I don't want to give him no name, but um, he was a little upset because people was making fun of him because of his losses. But he was talking about like sharing the content and um, that no one ever shares losses on Twitter anymore and all that stuff, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
everyone takes losses. Um, but yeah, but no one should be taking 4K losses. That's what I said about his
Uh,
post. Um,
yeah, no, exactly.
you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pete, um, I mean, my response to that is, yeah, I take losses all the time, but they're within my rules. I could give you a list, but I mean, that's my rules are set up so they don't affect my psychology, so it doesn't linger
Yeah.
like clove, right? So that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, where are you on that? I mean, you have some red days, Pete. I guess that was the question, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
so
mean, you just call it's the
so
same as
there's
it's the same as the big dubs, I assume, right? When you hit the number, because I play my red days like you do your win days. Like when I hit it, it's like, yep, I'm done.
right.
Time to do some homework.
So I yeah. So here's like my thing. I have a routine, and I like to get in things early. You'll see my notes. My notes reflect that, and and my first rule about that is what people see in those notes. That is for the most part in that first 2 hours. That is all I'm doing. I'm not looking for new stuff. I'm not seeing some news, something pop and chase it, or whatever. I have that plan, trade that, and that's kind of it. And there's a upside scenario to those trades, and then there's a downside. But for me, it's not 50-50. Like I think it's gonna go. This I think this is gonna happen. If we test this level, I'll do one put and try it out. Whatever. So out of that whole process, as far as like stops, limits, whatever, $300 to 450 is about as most as I'm comfortable losing. Like, and that's it. That's it. Um, then the rest of the day, if it's red at open, I got to kind of take a break. I don't try to trade out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of looking for secondary moves, opportunities, whatever. And then on the stuff I know really well, I can usually get break even on that just by the other side, whatever it's doing. Like crypto falls back, I'm like, oh, okay, so MSTR is going to do this. It's not going to do what I thought, and I will hop back in at that point. But really tight stops on that. Like, so I'm not looking to lose more, but if I see the opportunity, I will kind
A
of
plus.
go for it. Yeah, it's got to be A
Yeah,
plus.
A plus.
And I try to only stick to stuff I know really well at that point. And I don't get too caught up in kind of what's happening for the day. Like I have a really good Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday's bad. I just make sure that I'm not going to give up what happened Monday, Tuesday. And so yeah, no, I do have losses. The thing about the option trading is that you have to get to where you hold winners, because if you don't, I see this all the time with people. It's like they'll say like, "Oh, my wins are 10% and my losses are 40%." We got to find a way to flip that
Yes.
around, and that's kind of the number one thing. Look, I had an AVGO contract on Friday, 2,000 something percent. If I'm fucking that up with losses, something's got to change about the process. Okay, so like yeah, so yeah, for me, I don't have there's not some set percentage in the stop for me,
Sure.
but there is like a dollar amount that makes me uncomfortable, and that's when I pull back and stop. I never just completely walk away. I stay engaged, but I like the studying as much or more than the trading, so that's kind of a benefit for me, that I can stay involved and I don't have to always be in something.
So 2 straight weeks of very bad days would be 4K.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Checks out. Math checks out. All right, perfect.
yeah.
Um, no, I think it's an important topic. It's an important topic to touch base on with people, because that's for me. That
Oh, and
I don't want that to get in the waste of the psychology, right? Like you can
well,
see
and
the outcome is revenge trading. You see that all the time. So
the other here's the other side of it, by the way,
sports
and
betting.
this is where options traders are running into problems. What I've said this before, starting over every day. I'm pretty good at this. For me, that's very hard. Like I can't deal with that. Like I have to have some things that I'm building towards. And so the leaps. and the swings and stuff like that, like I don't even have them in the same account. And I track them, and they have a plan, and I follow through on that. Because the other side of like what we're saying, if I had, you know, 10 bad days in a row, well, okay, I got this MSTR leap I bought when I talked about it. That was up $3,400. So that, that's still that's still money. That's still, a trade I was in,
Yeah, yeah.
that was good. So the day trades can be a little more hot and cold, but where our work pays off, is finding a way to get a piece of some of this stuff longer term, having a good average and giving it some room, in shares and leaps. And that's really that was where I turned the corner. It wasn't scalping 20 cents on SPY for me personally.
Oh no, 100%. It's the long con here for sure. That's what helps you
Yeah.
out. But the day trading keeps you active in the market. You're going to be on top of the best opportunities because you're here daily.
Yeah.
That availability that we always talk about.
Yep.
Let's get into SPY here.
Yeah.
Running a little long, so let's do this. This thing, I had a wide range on purpose last week, um, and I think it still got me even to the top side. Where'd we go? 440, 93, 433, 40. So no, oh no, I was close. I was close. You were closer though. 439.19 to the top. So you got the top, and then 428 to the. P, you got pretty good. You're pretty good this week, P.
Yeah.
You're $5 more downside, which I mean I don't. How could you not give yourself a little bit of room down there, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that was what the options were telling me, and but that narrative's changed
The
a lot.
Monday Open, just I didn't think we were holding, and that's kind of set the week up for some weird stuff. Like, not that it affected me, but just Twitter seemed like the world was ending. It really did, and I was
Yeah.
like, God, it's just consolidating. Like, I didn't expect it. I get it. I understand that, but I also I know what I see. So it was just a weird week in
Yeah.
that regard because the sky wasn't really falling. There was a bunch of great opportunities, um, but yeah, the volume kind of sucked again. But 440, I would have lost the bet. I mean, I'm just saying, I'd have lost the bet right now. I have to ask that one question again. It feels like.
Oh, do we head back to?
Yeah, I gotta ask. I mean,
Yeah. I
what
mean, it's within reach.
that's what
It
I'm
is within
saying.
reach, right?
I mean,
And so and last time, I mean, we were closer than this by $10 or something or whatever it was. And I said no. Um, I can't definitively say no. Like I gotta hesitate, because I see the possibility, and the reason I see the possibility is because, of what's lagging and could get moving, and that's industrials and healthcare.
okay.
That, if Microsoft and Apple and Walmart, like if they want to stay up there, if Nvidia wants to stay hot, all of that stuff, like that won't be enough to push SPY over the top. But if oil even improves marginally, and then Cat and DE and UNH and all those people start firing off, then yeah, we probably go to 460.
Wow.
Uh, I I'm not ready to say I think it's going to happen, but I'm maybe 40% that we do now, whereas I was, a couple weeks ago 5% or something. I don't know. So yeah, it's they're getting there, and it's reflected in the option market too, where these contracts I've been talking about, the 420p or like 400p for January, completely flipped to bid side now. 90% bid side. That was 80% ask side a week ago. So they're selling to close because it was green, or they're selling to open, and that will take a couple days for me to figure out. But yeah, that's a very bullish contract now. So the 400 test doesn't look particularly likely at this point.
I said probably 3 weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, the 411, the 4 It was just one. It's just this 1 year and then the 3 year volume profile. We're gonna be stuck there the rest of the year, most likely, with
Yeah.
baby spikes out of it. That last candle, last week candle, and then this week confirming it might make me look wrong or way off, but I'm still kind of with that thesis, because I don't think we get to 460 in this calendar year. Um,
Yeah.
but we haven't talked about it yet, and I mean we mentioned it this morning, but we haven't talked about it yet. But if they get a deal through that is clean, without a bunch of other weird shit attached to it, and fix this, do more than kick the can down this week,
Hmm.
because Friday's the deadline for the government again. That could be your catalyst right there, and we've mentioned that before. But I mean, that could come to fruition not this week, but this weekend, because that's how they like to do it. They like to do stuff on the weekend. But I said it in Read the Room, up front early. Like, they want to go home for 6 weeks. I'm sorry, Unc just
Yeah.
thinks about shit differently. I think about stuff different, and it's what works for me. But those lazy bastards want to go home for 6 weeks over the holidays, and so
Yeah.
that 45-day kick the can down the street ain't gonna work this time. It's not.
Right.
Too many,
Yep.
and too many of them are that way, right? The bullshit that goes on there is important, but it ain't when it comes down to their personal life, and they want to go fucking home. So
Yep.
that's. I mean, I'm sorry that we're trading our livelihood off of stuff like that, but
All
that's
right.
what that's what it is. That's what it feels like, and I think that's what you're seeing in your numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we're having peace in Israel or shaking hands with Russia and China. Don't see that happening. So if there's a positive catalyst that's going to come that people kind of already know, that's it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I do think so, and I think with having a new speaker, there's a possibility of them getting a deal through that isn't really all that they want, but still being able to kind of claim the win on it. You know what I mean? Like the the new leadership is getting things done, and whatever. So yeah, I think that's definitely possible.
Another think like Unc comment of the last three speakers who Pelosi, old what's his butt, God, or McCarthy,
McCarthy, yeah.
and this new guy. Um, which one looked most like an accountant?
Oh, the new guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Got you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the one thing, and this is well about that whole process. This is where Democrats are definitely different. Not even saying better or worse, whatever, but nobody could have pried that gavel from Pelosi.
Oh
That
God, no.
never would have happened.
Oh God,
Like
no.
that, that they keep their, their coalition more, in line. Like they're gonna back her, and that's it.
They hang out
So
on the
yeah,
weekends.
yeah,
I'm the last to say that. Um, so numbers this week. You win. You won. So I'm making you go first. I promise I
yeah.
won't bark you because I'm gonna go TA. So
um. So yeah, I don't expect like a sustained move off of any of these numbers. I think it's drop and recovery, or you know pop and fade, or pop and stagnant, or whatever. So I'm going a little bit of a tight range this week. I'm gonna say 445.06 to the upside, and 432.12 to the
oh my
downside.
God, I should take this picture before. So I picked, and it'll make sense why I did.
Yeah.
I picked 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 432.10 to the downside. um, and upside, I'm just sticking with my volume P. So it's 443. It's totally a gamble.
Yeah.
Um, because we could open Monday morning and pre-market that $3 easy. Like that's easy to do. I'm just gonna go that we're gonna have a down week because they're gonna start talking about this and not get it done till next weekend. So I don't see much of more up, and yeah, It's more sideways, little down but
Uh,
sideways.
yeah, two questions. What the Moody's
Oh God.
news that dropped after hours? Do you think
Yeah.
that is really?
Yes and no. I will it move big money? I mean, that's the question you have to ask, right? Who cares about
Yeah,
us? Who really fucking cares about us? Nobody cares about us. Um, but I don't think so. I think that's something that they already, kind of believed or
there's
assumed. Like
we were on
that's
that
like that's like a,
trajectory
yeah, no
for that to
shit.
happen.
My account's down
Yeah,
30% in the last 3 years.
yeah.
But they're
um,
holding on. They're holding on. That's not gonna move them.
there wasn't a big reaction after hours on a Friday. You probably wouldn't see it anyway. I'll be interested to see how futures open. Um, could be a gap down. A lot of times that gets bought right back up, and then we kind of go from there. But yeah, I mean, I think you could see if Monday's red, I don't know, like 0.5%, 0.6%, something like that. Enough to get bears excited, but not enough to amount to much. And then we kind of go from there into all the Fed stuff.
I'm and I've been like this since like I learned about China Fridays, right? Like, because China Fridays were kind of towards the end of the the crazy 2020 2021 market. Um, that most of the time Fridays you just give it back on Monday. You just give it back on Monday, and we were at 35, 33 if you go off pre-market low, pre-day low. So I mean, even if we can get back in there, I'll feel way more comfortable with my top side. It's opening up here at 440 again, like we did 435 last week, um, where I would think, what am I doing here? Like, what's going on here? Um, so yeah, I think we get downside, but I don't think it's to that because of that news. I just think it's that natural relief. Um,
Yeah, right, absolutely. And then I look at like in individual names. Like AVGO went 5% Friday.
yeah,
Absolutely nuts. Like my whole thesis was we're going to test 920. It broke through it Thursday, gave it back, just took off Friday. Never stopped. But the thing about that is, when it is a big level like this, we're going to see that level again, and it's just a question of when. That'd be a pretty big drop for Monday, but a lot of times, like maybe half of that, you give that back, and then we make a decision. So I'm definitely with you on that. It's you got to revisit big levels. That's one thing I've learned about trading.
is
So I
430
do expect that.
last thing I want before we go to work here is 430
Yeah.
still kind of big on the putter side, or is it becoming big on the putter side, or is that what you're looking for going forward?
Uh, so yeah, it was yes. So it's 1215 430p and 1215 420p. Those are kind of the big ones, and the 420p leans heavily bullish at this point. 430p is more mixed. So I look for that little slider. It's like half red, half green. I look for it to move a direction, and that determines a lot about what I think we've got, coming up. The 1117 contracts, like a lot of those are going to close worthless, and getting through this called OPEX, this big monthly expiration date, is going to give some clarity, I think, going forward with what they do in December, January.
Nice, nice. No,
But there's still no calls, by the way. Of the top 20 open interest contracts, they're all puts. So that it's been like that for months. It's just a question of if the puts are bullish or not.
I don't. That's why I keep you around. I don't know that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
That's foreign language. You might as well speak Chinese trying to decipher flow.
Well, and as you can tell, you can probably tell from Twitter, these guys are just dying to be bearish. I mean, they just
Oh yeah,
they just stay on it. Like
I
I,
see it.
I don't know why. Like psychologically, what happened here? Like I guess they bought the top of the bull market, and so now, they've just been in disbelief all year or something. But but yeah, that's kind of the thing now is the retail trader wants to be bearish.
Yeah, I never understood how you could be a long-term bear.
Historically, it's not how it works. So yeah,
Yeah, no.
it's
You think?
it's built to go up. Yeah.
You think? Are you ready to get to work, Pete?
Yeah.
All right.